Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen, cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading, from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and on today's episode, I have Seán Hewitt, who wrote the book Open Heaven, which is out today, and my guest gay reader is Jeffery Self. His book, Self Sabotage, is also out as well. Both of their bios are in the show notes. If you are in the LA area this Friday, I'm going to be in person with Seán talking about Open Heaven at Book Soup. And then next week, I'm at the LA Times Festival of Books moderating a panel. So if you happen to be around, please say hello. Or there are certainly other places you could check out some of that content as well. Speaking of additional content, I just started a Gaze Reading Substack with author Q&As and live recordings of conversations and some other exciting stuff. You could check that out. The link is in the show notes and also on the Instagram link tree. On Instagram, we are Gaze Reading, or also on Blue Sky. And if you like what you're hearing, please share us with your friends. It means so much to this little indie podcast to just get a little bit of traction if you like and follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you are so inclined to leave a 5-star review, that certainly means a lot. And there's so much stuff coming up that I recommend you subscribe so that you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. For those of you who have not been paying attention, I am partnering with Aardvark Book Club to provide an exclusive introductory discount. New members in the United States can join today and enter the code Gaze Reading at checkout and get their first book for $4 plus free shipping. So aardvarkbookclub.com, use the code Gaze Reading, and you get a book for $4. It is like truly the best deal. So make sure to check that out as well. Please enjoy my conversations with Seán Hewitt and Jeffery Self. I love your office, or whatever room you're in.
Yeah, so I teach at Trinity College in Dublin, and this is Oscar Wilde's house. So
Shut up!
Yeah, so I'm in the attic. So it doesn't look like it used to be Oscar Wilde's house, but it was. He was born.
That is so cool. Of course, Oscar Wilde is on the Gaze Reading artwork.
Great. Yeah, I saw that. We saw it. Singing.
So you're like, the spirit of Oscar is with us today.
If there was a portrait in the attic, it would be me at this point. I live up in the attic, and there's a big old building with many stairs and no lift.
No lift. Oh, geez.
So I'm up 6 flights of stairs every day, down, so it keeps me healthy.
I know we just met, and this is probably inappropriate to say, but what I'm hearing is that you have a nice butt.
Yeah. But it keeps me healthy.
Welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm so excited to talk to you about Open Heaven.
I have one here. It's a great...
Yay.
It's
a great... Yeah, you need to get like a print of this for your office or something.
I do. I have many secrets about this cover as well. Join the next season.
Of course.
Sarah, who designed the cover, who I haven't spoken to, but I assume. So the book is set in a village, which is very like a village I know, which is like where I grew up. And when Sarah sent me this, I see the pink splodge. It's the exact of the outline of the county that I live in, or that I lived in. And I have to just assume that Sarah knew that because it's the exact outline of Cheshire.
So that's very cool. It looks like like an ink blot.
Yeah, that's the sort of research.
Wow, that is such a good Easter egg. Have you worked your elevator pitch yet for Open Heaven?
No.
All right, now is your time.
2 boys, 1 year, 4 seasons, small village, 1 straight, 1 gay. Gay one falls in love with the other one. Torture and romance ensues.
Yeah. I don't even know that you would need to say sexualities
No, no.
conceptually. Because what I love so much about the book is that there's this like love,
Yes. No,
you know.
and what I wanted to do with the book was put you so inside. So the main character is called James. I wanted you to be so inside his head that you also weren't sure about the nature of the relationship. Because I don't know if, like me, you're like terrible when in love. You know, when you fall in love, or even if you have a crush on someone and you're just constantly looking for signs from them. Did they mean to just touch my arm like that? Or was that just an accident? Or are they sending me a secret message? So I wanted to put you like right inside his head as he's trying to decode it. And maybe you can't tell what's fantasy and what's reality.
That is very true. I co-sign that is true. Because you brought that up, we could probably talk for an entire hour about what being in love, what being infatuated with, what having such deep emotions make us do, make us feel, make us suffer through. Do you have any examples of, I want to say, do you have examples of how crazy you were when you've been in love? But I guess that's maybe sort of what I'm asking.
I have many, I mean, none of which are like anything less than mortifying.
I'll happily share one of mine too, so you don't feel alone.
I just used to do this thing where I remember going to the cinema with a guy who I was like obsessed with when I was maybe about 16 or 17. We went with one of my friends who was a girl. And obviously this whole thing was entirely in my head. Halfway through the film, they start kissing. I stand up. I leave the cinema in tears. I don't tell them where I'm going. I get the bus all the way home and I don't speak to them for a week. But neither of them why I just ran away. And obviously from the outside, that looks completely deranged. But I think at that point, like it was also in my head that I thought it was real. Like I was just convinced that it was about to happen.
Yeah.
And met with this obvious evidence sitting next to me kissing that it was all in my head. I had a snap. But there's many more things. But yeah.
I think that's such a good example because I have learned through years of my own therapy that so much of my anxiety comes from expectations.
Yeah.
And so you had this fantasy in your head. And I think the term fantasy is very interesting in and of itself because fantasies aren't necessarily fantastical or untrue.
That's the hard thing sometimes.
Right.
No, sometimes they happen. So how are you?
Exactly. I said I would share to make you not feel alone. So I'm happy, but I was older than you. So this is even more embarrassing. So I was in college and it was like Thanksgiving one year and a friend's friend was in from out of town and he came over to my apartment with her and he and I had exactly what you described. Are the looks the thing that I think they are? Are the random touches the things that I think they are? And then sure enough, he got my number from our mutual friend, reached out to me and saw me the next day. And we had this weekend long sort of love affair. It was the beginning, the middle, and the end of a relationship in 2 days.
Okay.
And I mean, to the point where he was visiting in the town where he grew up. So he brought me to his childhood home and he was like, oh, I'm so excited to kiss you in my childhood bedroom. And oh, let's go do this thing and let's walk my dog together. And I'll bring you back to your apartment and we'll have fun and yada, yada, yada. So then the weekend is done and he's going back to school. And I was like, maybe we could try long distance or whatever. And he was like, no.
That was it.
Right. That was it. It was this weekend thing. And I was devastated and I went a little crazy.
But I think what I think about when you really, first off, that sounds like a film. And two, it's also when you have that like intense thing, and it seems like that guy had an intense thing for you. Well, why would he be bringing you into his childhood world?
Yeah, no, it was very strange.
But I think when you have this intense like day or two, we've all had those like dates that kind of, then you go to another bar and then you're just, oh, should we do this because you don't want to leave? And it feels like time just expands. But you also, it's amazing how much you can invest in an idea in such a short space of time. It sounds crazy from the outside until you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think that's a crazy thing at all? I have done the exact same thing. So we're not crazy, right?
No, we're not crazy. We're not crazy together. What are you doing tomorrow night? Do you want to go out for dinner?
Yeah.
You said time expands, and the first line of the book is time runs faster backwards.
Mhm.
You literally just said time expands. So many of the chapters in the book start with phrases that are very temporal and time related. What is your relationship with time?
I wrote that first section of the book, so the prologue part of the book, a little bit.
Mhm.
I actually remember where I was. I was in Providence, Rhode Island,
Oh.
of all places. And I was thinking about one of the weird things is that being alive is you have to live always. And you're entirely unprepared for what's coming because everything is new. But looking backwards is the only way that you can understand things that have happened and put them into a context. Like, you're not really able to do that as you're living day to day. There is not the processing power to put things in.
Mm.
I wondered about the unevenness of our life. Like, the past is so much bigger and heavier than the future sometimes. And we can find ourselves being pulled backwards into this orbit of things that have context that kind of we process all the time, we think about all the time. And the future is this kind of airy possibility. And I don't know, I think about that a lot. And I also think I tend to, well, probably everyone does, right? We live most of our lives in the idea of past. I think we're like generally maybe a survival mechanism or something.
Partly survival, I think, because we learn from our past.
Yeah.
We are able to survive not burning our hand on the stove because we remember what happened when we touched it the first time.
Right.
You talking about the past being bigger and heavier is interesting because there is something about getting stronger as we move forward and giving us the strength to carry the heavy past.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the heavy past is buckling you and it's down on you. And I think in this book, I wanted to start it and so it starts in 2022 and then goes back in time because I think there's multiple things that's still dragging down on this character that he needs to sort out. So I had this vision of a rewinding and going back in time and almost like trying to isolate the point at which he becomes himself and whether that can be undone or not.
Some of how you do that in the book involves sense memory.
Mm-hmm.
James goes back to this town. He goes to the farm where these kindlings of these feelings began, and he smells the farm. And I did a little bit of research on sense memories because I find them so impactful. And I never really thought to look into why. And apparently the olfactory system in the brain is connected to our emotion center and our hippocampus, which is our memory center, and senses evoke strong emotional memories instantly because they bypass the normal processes.
Yeah.
And so like you literally can smell something and immediately be transported back to a moment because of the direct link to the memory.
I mean, that's happened to me a couple of years ago. So this is either embarrassing or not. But
nothing's embarrassing on Gaze Reading.
My boyfriend's mum so her next door neighbor used to work in like a department store, and they had this thing where they have like perfume tests, but they throw them out when they're less than half full because it looks bad or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So she used to be able to get the half empty once. We would go over and she would hand them out and be like, I have the marshmallow perfume or whatever. And I was sitting there and it was in the middle of the day in the garden and she sprayed this Chanel perfume and it was my gran who died when I was like 10.
Wow.
But I couldn't have told you what perfume she wore.
Yeah.
And then I immediately started crying and no one knew why I was crying. But it was like getting a hug from my gran because I could smell like the smell of her skin. And it's very weird. I just immediately, like, the past and present were just joined together and I was 8 years old with my gran. And then she gave me the bottle and I've not opened the bottle because I can't deal with the bottle.
Wow.
But yeah. So
What's amazing is when you're able to pinpoint it. You can pinpoint the scent and you can pinpoint the memory. I have a somewhat similar example. You'd mentioned having never been to LA before, and here's a plug for our conversation in LA at Book Soup on April 18th.
Yeah.
But dear friends of mine moved out to LA. They were a few years older than me, and I went to visit them when I was a teenager. And at the time, they were wearing the artist Brito. He has these like very specific art pieces. It doesn't really matter, but he's an artist. And apparently he also had a cologne, and that became their scent the very beginning of their time in LA. And I want to say I was at some store where you can buy discount clothes and colognes and things. And they had a bottle of this cologne years later, and I bought it and immediately was transported back to my teen years, the first time I was in LA. And I think I got rid of it. I might still have it, but it's one of those things where it's so bizarre to be able to transport yourself in a way by smelling something.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it seems to just bypass so much stuff in your head and immediately fuse time together in a weird way. When I was writing the book, so it's set over the 4 seasons, and I tried to write each season when I was in the season so I began autumn, and then I went to spring.
That's very, I'm a poet of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, oh my God, I'm going to give you a complex. I really meant that in a deeply charming way. I'm very charmed by it. So I don't mean it in a bad way.
That was a good way of getting that sensory smells, or the way that light falls in a certain month, or it's hard to remember it all if I was sitting at the desk in winter and I was trying to write springtime, it would be full of, even though how many springs have I lived through, you need the immediacy of it to get it onto the page properly.
And strangely enough, that's where you get a cliche. You would end up with a cliche of spring because it's what's coming to mind versus deep realities of it.
Yep. Yeah. So that was one cliche. I tried to erode reasons. Yeah. What other cliches can I give you?
Oh my God, stop it.
We can just trot them out. No, but sensory memory was a big thing. And I had this almost at the start of Brideshead Revisited, when he goes back to the house and it's become like a military, all the soldiers are stationed in Brideshead. And he goes back and he has this, and I think he goes to the chapel. And then the story emerges out there. You go, I think I stole it from you.
Yeah, I think there is that sort of concept of you find yourself in a place that you knew once upon a time and you're transported back. There's this realization that James may not have actually left the place behind. And do you even think that we do leave places behind?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think, so I lived in a village very like this. And now I live in Dublin and I've lived here for a long time. But I think I'm essentially the person that was raised in that village. I'm not a Dubliner. It's not, I live here, but it's not me. No matter how much I would try and change that, I think I am a villagey person.
Are you open to adaptation?
Yeah. Is that enough?
No, I grew up, I don't know how familiar you are with the United States geography, but I grew up in South Florida, which is a very specific place. I went to school in Chicago and I lived for over 10 years in New York City. And I don't know how long you've been in Dublin, but I would say that it got to a point where I don't consider myself a Floridian anymore. I've spent so much of my formative time living in a big city that I'm a city mouse.
Yeah.
And there, I think, are pieces of me that I can still see from my past. We don't leave these places behind. But I think I was open to adapting to the new space.
Yeah, I definitely am. I guess what I mean is, if you think of places you experience as an adult, I think you have a particular way of experiencing.
Yeah.
If I think of my living room from when I was like 5, I could tell you what color the carpet is, what the curtains look like, what the curtain look like. what the key felt like to get into the record cabinet or whatever. I have such a strong memory of all those things. And I was speaking to my mum about this, and she couldn't remember what curtains we had. But they were the only curtains I'd ever seen. They were, so I have a really strong memory. Whereas now, I couldn't tell you what curtains I had in the first house I moved in. I have no idea.
That is so interesting, and I think really changed my perspective on even what I just said, because I remember my childhood address. I remember my phone number. I remember the neighbors. I don't remember any of the addresses of the places that I've lived in since, some, but mostly not. And similarly, I was talking to my mom about a car that she had at some point, and she didn't remember that it even existed.
Yeah.
And it's the car that I took my driving test in.
Yeah. So you remember it.
So of course I remember it.
I still know the license number of the first car. It was a red Renault Espace.
Oh, how funny.
With the R. And I remember, and I have no idea any license number I've had since. And my mom actually has the mobile phone number, which was my first mobile phone, and she still has it. And that's the only phone number I don't have. But I know that.
That's so funny.
I think maybe if you're remembering things, just get
Yeah, that's very true. How does your coming out story compare to James's experience?
very different.
Yeah.
My coming out story, I was the only person in school. So that is similar to James, but I volunteered the information.
Yeah.
I was, with the help of alcohol. There was a big house party. It was actually on a farm, and everyone was really drunk. I got really drunk, and I told someone. And then I guess I just had a kind of moment where I was like, I told one person I may as well just walk around this house party and tell every single person I encountered. Well, I did that. And then the next day I woke up and I was like, oh shit, I told 200 people last night, so I better tell my parents because
oh wow,
right,
it's a small town.
One will find out anyway, so I'm going to go down and tell them. When I came out in my school, there was no one else that had come out. So I was thinking if there would have been no one else for James as well if he was there. Mm-hmm. This weird thing. I remember I used to work in this cocktail bar in the village, and I went back after I'd finished university because I didn't have a job or anything, so I just went back and worked in this cocktail bar. And this boy, he was probably about 15, came up to me and was like, "You were the gay guy in school." And I think he must have clocked me when he was like maybe 11, 12, because I was the one at the time. So that was weird because obviously I didn't know who he was. I was somehow like famous for being the only gay. Obviously I was. People have come up. Yeah.
Sure. No, I remember when I was in high school, I think I'm maybe a hair older than you. There were like 4 of us, and we all had our own journey, right? Like I was a theater kid, but I was also I was very liked, but also kept to myself. I didn't really make a spectacle of things. Then there were other people who wore rainbow clothes to school and felt that they needed to be a quintessential homosexual compared to not dissimilar from Will and Grace. And I think that sort of we established these strange roles throughout our high school experience.
Yeah. You have to demarcate yourself.
Yeah. Something interesting comes up in the book, the idea of breaking a taboo when James has admitted that he has desires and is no longer innocent. And I realized that's such an interesting shade of coming out. Like you don't think, oh, I'm not just sharing a piece of myself. I'm not just sharing my sexuality. I am saying that I'm having desires.
Yeah, I think it's a really weird situation because if you're straight, you don't have to go up to your parents and be like, I want to have sex with women. But implicitly in what you're saying as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, however old you are, is I am a sexual being. I'm no longer a child. As kind of demarcating that break. And I think in some ways for a parent, that must be quite a strange thing, depending on the age you are when it happens. But either way, I think we don't tend to talk about sex with and it is the one moment at which you actually have to implicitly do that. Yeah. And so I think it is a bit of a taboo breaking thing because you're demarcating childhood and adulthood yourself. You're doing it yourself.
Yeah. And there's conversation too in the book about struggling to be seen as an adult in an environment where people see you as a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I talk a lot about how being an adult is a farce and is not real and is an illusion. And I think the older you get, the more you're like, oh, when am I going to become an adult?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's always, I'm sure plenty of people will argue with me, but I don't feel like I know everything, in quotes, the way that I think a younger me would have thought I would have known in my mid to late 30s. You know what I mean?
And I think as a teenager, you have this weird thing where in your head, you have it figured out, even though all evidence might say to the contrary. And it's I remember being incredibly frustrated at having to follow rules, go to school, not stay out past X time, be watched and everything. Because when you're like 16, 17, 18, you're like ready to do it on your own, but you're like the same as if you were like 12. And there's this weird where you're like in a holding pen for adulthood.
It's funny. I was just remembering, this was like a week ago. My husband and I were with friends of ours who are even older than us. And it's a long story, but there was cake. And we brought cake to their house, and time went by and they said, oh, should we eat cake? Even though it's 5:00 and we haven't had dinner and whatever. And I literally said, I was like, this is the perk of being an adult.
We can eat cake whenever.
We can eat cake whenever it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sometimes I get that sense too. I'm always, in terms of breakfast, I'm the most boring breakfast person ever because I'm never really hungry in the morning. So I just eat a banana and some cereal.
I've only had a banana so far today too.
Okay. Yeah.
I get it.
Like sometimes when I wake up, I suppose, particularly if I've had a drink, and I'm like, I could have anything I want right now. There's no one to stop me. So if I want to get up and make like pancakes and pour chocolate on top of it and whatever I want, I can do that, and I can eat it in bed and can stop me. And that's very free. But sometimes we need to stop ourselves. So this could go wrong. This sort of like just permissiveness. But yeah.
And interestingly enough, again, I'm just thinking about this. If to do something like, I'm an adult and I'm going to order a pizza at 8:00 in the morning because I can, to someone who has known us since childhood or who sees us as younger than them, that can come across as childish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is I'm curious to hear go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, I remember when my memoir came out, it was 2022. I was 30. I was 31, going on 32. And there was a tenant, one of the reviews called me something like a wise child. And in some ways it was like, they tried to put it on the book jacket and I was like, please do not put that. And one thing I realized was, like, at my age, my parents had all three of us. They were married and a house, blah, 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 blah. But I wonder if in some way, because I don't have children, because I'm not married, maybe I'm like also perceived as having this kind of childish lifestyle. Like it's not expectation of adulthood, which are like children, marriage, a mortgage, whatever. And so even though I just don't really see how 32 could be a child, unless you're like really old, I wonder if I don't think it's just like queer people, because I think some straight women friends have the same thing too. But yeah, it just kind of struck me about all the different ways in which perceived as being like a child who is an adult anyway. Maybe part of that observation about the teenager came from me feeling like a child being treated, an adult treated as a child. Yeah.
So interesting. And I'm like horrified for you. That's very frustrating. There are so many juxtapositions and paradoxes throughout the book.
Mm.
And the idea of James being afraid of men, but also only feels safe if there's a man nearby.
Yeah.
And it had me thinking about just other paradoxes as a queer person, not being attracted to women, but having so many female friends and wanting them in my life. There's a scene in the book, and this is not giving anything away, but James is aroused by seeing naked women because because of the idea of a man being aroused by that naked woman is arousing to him.
Yeah.
And that's also interesting and complicated. Are there other aspects of being a queer person that are so paradoxical that come to mind for you?
I think, the more I was describing James with his weird idea of, he has a kind of jealousy of women because of male desire. And I think maybe that's a sort of paradox, like feeling safe around women and disliking men, but wanting to be like a woman so that guys would fancy. Like he has this whole like gender mess in his head that he's trying to figure out as well. Other paradoxes.
And maybe the answer is no.
One of them, I think, as well, is being relatively afraid of the masculinity of straight men, massively attracted to the masculinity of straight, which is his kind of key thing. That's his like ongoing pattern, is that he can only, I suppose the other one is he can only want something when he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And the second he gets something, it collapses some sort of momentum inside him. It's like, that you can only desire something.
There's this very interesting dance between anticipation and desire.
Yeah. Yeah. And fulfillment.
Right.
In almost as soon as the fulfillment, I think in James's head, maybe this is like after the book, but I think in his head, once something is fulfilled, he's not fulfilled. So he has this like weird kind of ongoingness.
Yeah. Sometimes the thing that is attractive, the thing that is exciting is the chase.
Yeah. Yeah. And
then once you catch it, then it's not exciting anymore.
Yeah. And part of me, some of the book came from, I was speaking to so many friends over the years who said the first person I loved was my straight. Like I had this guy, we were very close, and I always thought there was something there, but now he's married. And part of my question was like, what does that do to your mindset if your kind of formative understanding of love and desire is for someone who will never reciprocate? I understand love and desire as something unreciprocated. And so when it's reciprocated, it doesn't feel like love and desire.
Interesting. There was a moment in the book that I probably just underlined and didn't actually write down in the sense of a question, but it made me think of that line from Moulin Rouge. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
I know I'm going to get beaten off this podcast, but I haven't seen your face. Yeah, no, I've now seen Moulin Rouge.
Interesting. You're literally turning red.
Yeah.
That's okay. Listen, you are proving that you are not a cliche.
That is true.
But you have a month and a half to rectify this before we meet in person.
Okay. I'll watch it tonight.
Do you like theater? Do you like theatrical things, heightened things? You could say no.
I like theater. I'm lukewarm on musicals. Is it a musical?
The short answer is yes.
It has like pop songs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's songs that you have heard, or at least you could also listen to on the radio if you've not heard of them. But it is a love story that is so epic and romantic, in quotation marks, that I think the only way it can be visualized is through this like spectacle.
Yeah.
And that's why it is, I think, a musical.
I feel like I've seen so much of Moulin Rouge that when
Sure.
I watch it, maybe it will just feel like I've already seen it. But
You also don't have to watch it. It's really fine.
no, I have so many gaps in my
In your queer canon.
yeah, principally musicals. I think there's something
Okay.
about people singing happily. I like a sad musical. Maybe that's my own sort of.
Moulin Rouge, I would argue, is sad.
Okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a guest recently about musicals, and she was like, how could people not love musicals? I was like, listen, girl, so many people I talk to cannot get on board with a person just breaking out into song.
Yeah, I think I do have like favorite musicals, but I think that my
What are they?
capacity, I love The Sound of Music. And she just breaks the songs all the time, and that's like a very campy, whatever.
Not what I was expecting, but also the Nazi show up at the end.
Yeah, I love how that film just gets, I don't know, I have whole theories about this film. You know how it like starts on the, sorry, I don't musicals, but I do have theories about some.
Tell me.
I just think, you know how it like, you start up in the mountains and it's like blue and green and technicolor and whatever. And as you go through the film, the spaces get smaller and the film gets darker to the point where you're like scurrying through a tunnel at the end. So it feels like this whole film just closes all the way down to that. And I like how it just progressively constructs.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Big fan of the sound. I also, Oliver, I used to really like Oliver. I was actually in Little Shop of Horrors in school.
Who did you play?
I was dentist.
You were? That's shocking, but I'm obsessed.
I don't really remember much about it.
You blacked out.
Job was as the dentist. I was pulling teeth out. I don't know.
You had a song?
I had a song. My mum is really obsessed with some musicals. She used to sing them a lot. So actually, I know a lot of the songs from musicals because she listened to them in the car. But
Interesting.
I've actually seen the musical that they come on.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So Sound of Music and Oliver are things you enjoy, and you were in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's quite a mix.
Listen.
Bag.
I'm very intrigued. I think that says a lot about who you are.
It's a graphic of culture. Makes no sense.
James in the book is an assistant to the milkman.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because the book, that plot line doesn't take place that long ago. I mean, it does, frustratingly, as a person who feels like 2002 was not that long ago.
Yeah.
But I did a little research because I was curious. Apparently, presently, 3% of milk purchases in the UK are delivered and 0.4% in the United States. It's a very small number.
It's a small number. Yeah.
But it does still happen.
It was actually my brother that worked for the milk. I didn't work for
I was going to ask what your job was because I assumed you didn't work for the milkman, but your brother did.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, I had a paper route.
A paper route.
Yeah. Which I used to.
You made a face about it.
I used to hate it because it was a free paper. So it had all of these, it was basically funded by advertising.
Mm.
All the advertising was in leaflets. So what they would do, they would deliver you the papers and then they would deliver you like 10 packs of leaflets. And you individually put all the leaflets in. So that took like the whole Sunday night, like maybe 3 or 4 hours of just putting the leaflet in the paper. And then you would have to deliver them. And I think, I want to say, I delivered them on a Thursday and I think I got £5. Right?
What?
Yeah. No. So it wasn't like it was bad money then, but I had to have a job because we weren't like a pocket money family.
Yeah.
So it was more, I think so long as I had this job, my parents would consider spending money on me. But if I didn't have any initiative in doing that. But my older brother, yeah, he used to do the milk round. I had him up really early though, I think, yeah. Fine. But,
James had to wake up very early in the book.
yeah.
You were just talking about your parents and a little bit of your childhood and your behavior. Were you a rule follower?
Yes, in comparison to my brothers.
Yeah.
My older brother broke all of the rules. So by that point, it probably wasn't that attractive for me to break rules because
Yeah.
it was nothing new. So I thought
So similar to James, because James is a rule follower.
Yeah.
And being in trouble stresses him out. He is very clearly attracted to what one might call a bad boy. Is that true for you?
I've learned my lesson. But yeah, I suppose instinctively, yeah.
Oh,
Right, but
interesting.
I think to the point of attracted to, but would never pursue because I know that I would go like just leave him.
Yeah. No, I get that. Do you remember? There's this like great little moment in the book of James remembering the moment he sees Luke for the first time.
Mhm.
Do you have one of those memories, whether it's someone from your childhood or your boyfriend, or do you remember that sort of first moment of seeing that person?
Yeah, I think I remember the first moment I've seen quite a lot of people. I remember the first moment I've even seen my boyfriend. Although I don't know if I'm inventing that memory because I know where we were.
Oh, interesting.
Superimposing his face now onto the memory. I don't know. I find it difficult sometimes to remember what people used to look like if you see them a lot. You lose that earlier face.
What you just said is such an interesting color, a shade of the book itself, because what is the memory?
Yeah, I think in this book, I wanted you to know, right from the start, there's a couple of moments in the prologue where James obviously lies to people, like the bartender in the pub he lies to, and the reader that he's lying because he's
right. The real estate agent he lies to.
Yeah. So I wanted you to know that he is in some ways an editor of memory.
Mm-hmm.
Also that he has certain things he maybe doesn't want to tell you or maybe never tells you outright through them. And there are certain things as well that are nostalgic. And I think in general, nostalgia has a bad rep. And I understand why. But I think that every single person has these nostalgic things. And I don't know, people seem to talk about nostalgia as like an indulgence, kind of a lie. But I think it's also something that we do to build up stories for our life. Like there are moments that mean a lot to us, and we wrap them in this kind of colorful shroud of nostalgia. It's almost like making a sacred thing of something. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. I think if anything, it just is indicative of the sort of person that we are. And yeah, so James first sees Luke in a very Luke moment. He's like smoking a cigarette and he's annoyed. He's in trouble and he's avoiding doing work at the back of the barn. But he's beautiful. And he has a sort of energy that the James doesn't have, which is, I suppose he just feels very alive to things because he's not really thinking, or he appears not to be thinking about other people, not bothered about what people think. Although I think at various points that mask slips off because in some ways we project other people into the world as much as we see them.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
Talking about memory, there are also sequences about dreams. Do you remember your dreams?
Quite often. I have some like very vivid dreams that I remember to the point of maybe I had them about 15 years ago and I can still remember the dream. Most nights I think I don't remember them or that kind of.
Yeah.
There have been a couple of big dreams in my mainly because they tend to be very surreal. I don't want to bore you by telling you my dreams, but yeah, I did actually have a dream. There's a number of dreams that James has in book. I don't want to. I don't want to give spoilers because the content of the dream.
That's why I interrupted you. So now I'm curious because James also has reoccurring dreams. Do you have reoccurring dreams?
I did at one point. I had, and I won't tell you what the dream was because it's similar to James's recurring dream, but I had a very similar set of dreams. I don't really know where they came from. And then, but they always involved tunnels. It was either like I was in a tunnel, I was in the riverbed and it was dried out, but I couldn't get out the side of it. I was running away. But it was always tunnels.
Were you at the end of The Sound of Music?
Just singing. Yeah, I remember having this feeling of being chased out. Or
Oh,
I'd done something really wrong, but I don't know what the thing wrong was.
oh, interesting. I don't remember what reoccurring dreams were when I was a kid, but I remembered how they made me feel. And there was a specific like cadence to the dream, and in turn, sort of my emotional response to it. And that has reoccurred somewhat recently in adulthood.
Okay. Was it a dream or a night? How would you count?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe something in between.
Yeah. I only ask because I think the bad thing about recurring dreams is when you have one, if you have it again, you then become afraid of the dream. I
Yeah.
remember as a teenager sometimes being afraid of going to sleep because I thought that the dream would happen again because I'd had it a number of times. Right. And it wasn't that bad a dream, but like I just remember building it up into this thing that I didn't want to go to sleep. It's like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How do you sleep at night when that's the case?
Rough off to sleep. And sometimes I would do this thing where I would return to the dream. Do you ever do that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. We can have a whole conversation about that, I'm sure. And what that means.
Yeah.
There is a moment where James talks about listening to his mixed CDs.
Yeah.
What would be on yours?
Oh, God. In 2002 or now?
Let's say both.
I've made a Spotify playlist that I think is James's Spotify playlist. So I was just like,
Yeah.
Here is
No, I want to know yours. I don't want to know James's. I want to know yours. And then I could link that Spotify playlist in the episode.
okay. So here is on it. George Michael, right on there. Maybe like Father Figure or who else? I love. Do you hear Millie Jackson?
No.
All right, go and listen to Millie Jackson. She has this album that I found in a record shop, and then I became so obsessed. It's called Feelin' Bitchy.
I'm so excited.
It has a 10-minute song at the start that's like part rap, part song, and she's amazing. Anyway, so I feel like I need to. She's the one that sang "If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right," but that's on a different. But that's the song. I am also big into folk music. So Shirley Collins is my queen, and she would be up there at my mixtape.
Okay.
And Bessie Smith. I love Bessie Smith. I love a sad lady. You're not big on yours.
Why does that not surprise me? I mean, you're a freaking poet. Of course you love sad ladies. Who would be on mine? That's a good question. But you talking about liking folk music, I'm a big Yola fan. Do you know Yola? Oh, and she's from the UK too.
Okay.
You would, yeah, I think you'd be into her.
Okay.
It's very like soulful folk.
On the list. Yeah.
What would be on mine? I'm talking about nostalgia. I'm such a sucker for the Spice Girls and things from my youth.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I love a good song with a good hook. I think it depends on context.
Yeah. Kate Bush. I need to put Kate Bush on there. But yeah, I was making a kind of 2002 playlist. So much bad music. A real dud year, because I think it was a transition between the 90s, which felt authentic in its own way, and between indie music, which I feel like the noughties became that. There's this moment in 2002-3 where no one knows what the fuck is going on, and they're just like putting out songs that have no coherence. There's no sound of 2002. It's all just a mess.
I think that's maybe part of what makes it interesting, right? It's like a little bit of the past, a little bit of the future. And
I mean, there are some really good songs for it, but there's also,
but there's not like a sound.
No, it's also like in 2002, there would be like in the 90s too, there'd be like one song, and that was like the number one for 4 months. And that, the 2002 was Dynamic, Nelly and Kelly. That was that song.
Would not have guessed.
Also very 2002.
Avril Lavigne. Yeah. Oh, sure.
And then Pink arrives 2003 and saves the day.
God bless Pink. Yeah. What was I just going to say about music? Oh, contextually, I find it interesting. Are we dancing? Are we having wine night? Are we at a dinner party? Are we doing work and listening to music in the background? I would have a different answer for all of those things.
Fair.
So
You need adaptable playlists.
yeah, no, I know. I was just thinking about how I need to do like a gym playlist, a getting ready for an interview playlist. I need my different playlists.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
I know.
Playlist.
It's worth investing.
Yeah.
You said naughties, and you're the second author in a row that has second UK author in a row who has used the term the naughties. And I've heard the knots,
Okay.
but I've never heard the naughties, and I'm obsessed.
What do you say?
Honestly, we say the 2000s, which is ridiculous.
Oh no, this is the noughties. Yeah.
The naughties is way more fun. I'm gonna start saying the naughties, and we're gonna make it happen here in the States.
You need to
to
the States.
I know.
It needs to be the noughties.
Yeah, no, this is the moment, Seán.
Yeah.
We're starting the naughties right now. I'm so excited that we get to continue this conversation in person because I have plenty of other things I'm looking forward to talking to you about. But to end here, there's something that comes up in the book I'm curious to ask you. You need to learn to enjoy yourself, and it's a struggle. I'm curious, is there something that you've done? Is there a way that you've learned to enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I'm about to say the most geriatric thing in the world. I really like gardening now. I have spent
It's so cute.
so many hours and hours. I've made a chart. I'm planting my seeds. I've got a cold frame. I'm building beds. I'm blissing out. I've actually got soil in my nails right now because I was breathing. And that's what I do.
Fantastic.
Oh, I know that's a really boring answer, but like it does honestly
No.
buff.
Okay. I have a plant behind me. I have other plants in my home. If ever I have a question, I'm going to send you a picture and be like,
Great.
Seán, help me.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
figuring it out. But yeah. And yeah, I do that a lot. I do.
You're not the first person to say that.
Okay, good. Maybe I think
Yeah.
having like a retreat to the garden.
I love this.
Maybe.
You could read in the garden. You could write in the garden. There could be a garden poem that comes up.
But I was just in the States and I kept on texting my boyfriend being like, I need you to send me photos of the garden. Because I was so excited to come back to see some of the buds are on the trees. And I was like, I went around and I was like, what's out? What's not? Does she need proof? Does she need...
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so fun. The one thing I will leave you with before we go is your headshot is infuriating to me because not everyone looks good in profile.
Already.
And you look so good in profile. It's very frustrating.
I think everyone has one good side. If I turn my head the other way, you wouldn't be saying that.
Oh, that's interesting. But it also made me think, because I asked you about if you remember seeing people for the first time. It made me remember the very first time I saw my husband was in a Facebook. His profile picture was literally his profile. That's the very first glimpse I ever had of him. Anyway. Seán Hewitt.
Thank you for...
Open Heaven. Congrats.
Thanks. Out in April.
Out in April.
Thanks.
And we will be live in person at Book Soup on Friday, April 18th. Come hang out with us. And those are all the things.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
See you there.
Heck.
Look at you. Look at all these books on your shelf.
Gaze reading, baby.
And the giant J Marquis letter.
That right there. Yes. The first day I moved into my apartment when I moved back to New York, like a year and a half ago. And I was walking by the Housing Works, which is the great like thrift stores.
Freaking love Housing Works.
We love. And we just moved back to the West Village. We're not back. I don't know why I'm saying back. I just moved back to New York, but moved to the West Village. Yeah. And I walked by and there was a giant lit up J in the window and I bought it. And then my husband arrived like 2 days later and was like, what about an A for his name? But we couldn't find one. So here we are a year and a half later.
I want it.
No time for him. I know it's beautiful. It's really, really groovy. It puts out really cool light at night. Like when I turn up all the lights and watch a movie,
oh my God,
it has a nice aesthetic.
Okay, so years ago at the Broadway flea market.
Okay, I love
the Jujamson organization had a table, and they were selling marquee letters from above the St. James that were
No.
from Finian's Rainbow. And they were these two giant ends. And for 3 years in a row, I had dreams of buying them and making end tables out of them.
Hey, get out of here. Get out of here with
I
that.
never did. And it's one of my biggest regrets.
I
Seeing that just
100%.
dusted up that trauma. So
I get it. I saw that production of Finian's Rainbow. I saw those ends on above the building.
know. That production was very good.
It was Cheyenne Jackson and who is the lady?
And
Kate Baldwin?
Kate Baldwin.
Yeah,
Gorgeous
I liked it.
Kate Baldwin.
And Chuck Cooper. He was really good. Yeah.
And Chuck Cooper and Chris Fitzgerald. I know.
What a good show.
What a good show.
I just noticed Cathy Rigby popping over your shoulder. That's what that is, right?
I'm obsessed that you clocked that.
I can clock Cathy Rigby from a mile away, baby. I love that production. I grew up with that. I don't know if it was on VHS or DVD when I was a kid, but I loved it. It was so beautiful. And I don't know if you remember the clip of her when she performs at the Tonys and she flies over the audience, which is like unbelievable.
Jeffrey,
and the best
changed my life.
It cuts to Goldie Hawn in the audience watching, and she is, I think she's with Kurt, I assume. And she leans over. I don't know why Goldie Hawn's at the Tonys either. And she leans over to Kurt and she goes, like talking about the cord holding her up. She can't believe how small it is. And it's like, Goldie Hawn, you've seen someone fly before. This is 90 something, 2000, who knows?
Right.
But she was very impressed. And it was impressive because she did the flips and she's very good.
I have to rewatch that performance. I
do. It's great.
That entire production lives in my mind rent free. I have her 1991 poster. This is the 1996 poster.
Yeah, that's the one I know.
And I also have her 2014 poster. Or
Why not do it again?
She did it not long ago. So I have these. I have this like triptych of Cathy Rigby and Peter Pan.
I know this isn't the point of this podcast. However, did she like runs a theater? She and her husband, right?
In Southern California. Oh my God. Is
it La Mirada?
La Mirada.
Yeah. Which I went to see Grease at, and she was not in it. But in like a shopping mall in like next to literally an LA Fitness. It was fascinating. I like was smoking a joint between acts, as you do. And I was outside of an LA Fitness. I was like, I think it's the first time I've gotten stoned at intermission of a musical outside of a LA
gym.
Fitness.
Unless you're, I guess, outside of where Blockheads used to be. If you're seeing something. I guess
that's true.
Right,
that's
there's
a good
gym
point.
right there.
Oh, I've gotten stoned there.
That's so funny. Jeffrey Self, welcome to Gays Reading.
Okay, thanks for having me. I love your podcast. I think it's great.
Thank you so much.
I really do. I'm a gay and I love to read, and I enjoy other gay people reading.
Amazing. I know. Me too. If you've listened, you might have heard me say before, you don't realize how many people are actual readers until you start talking about reading.
I know. People don't flaunt it enough. Everything else about everybody's fucking life, but not what they're reading. I only post basically on my social media about what I'm reading. So I feel like people are a little, okay, we get it, you read. But I certainly want people to be reading now because I have a book coming out, or at least buying books. But
right. That's all you need. You just need them to buy the books. It doesn't really matter.
Truly. At the end of the day. Yeah.
So I see all these beautiful books behind you.
Yes.
I have a couple of them.
I bet you do.
What are you reading?
I am reading. I literally am so obsessed with it. I'm not done yet. I'm like savoring it, but I'm reading The Love of My Life. I'm sure, hopefully people haven't been obsessively talking about this on here, but it is Edmund White's work, right?
Yes.
I'm longtime fan, huge fan. I don't remember when I first discovered his stuff. I think weirdly, the first one I ever read, no, that's not true. I guess was probably Boy's Own Story, which is like my least favorite. But it's just
we're allowed to have a least favorite.
I don't care about like someone's childhood as someone who literally just wrote a book that talks about his childhood. But
but it's about you, Jeffrey.
Yeah. But I've got very obsessed with his stuff. And weirdly, I think my favorite is one of his lesser known books, I think, but it's Our Own Boy. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Something like that. It's over here somewhere. And it's so, I can look at that all day. Okay. It's so good. And then I love his first memoir, which is called City Boy, and it's excellent. And then look how many fucking books this guy has written. Holy
Oh, wow.
shit. I know. I really want to know him. And I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna put it out in the universe. I've been doing that. But what is the one that really Our Young Man? It's great. It's so sexy. And his books are just beautifully sexy. He famously literally wrote The Joy of Gay Sex book. I don't think he was
Right.
credited, but he literally wrote the book on gay sex, which is hilarious. And this new memoir it's called a sex memoir, is so good in that it literally just goes through all the men he's either had a fascinating fuck with or fallen in love with or had a long-term relationship with or briefly dated. He just writes so beautifully and hilariously and poignantly. And it's just also, he's a person who he's in his 80s, he's there pre-AIDS and post-AIDS. And it's a fact in all around New York City and around the world. And it's just such a fascinating and cozy read. It's just so, it hit me this morning. I was reading it because I only have 30 pages left. I was like, fuck, it's going to be over soon. And I'm so sad. And I love that feeling with a book. It's my favorite feeling when you're just like, oh, I don't want this to ever end. And I think always feel that way with his work. And luckily, he's written a bajillion books.
I don't know about
reread.
you. I forget books once I finish reading them. And so you could basically I could reread all of them from beginning to end.
I do. I'm not a huge rereader. I have a handful of audiobooks that I listen to.
Oh.
Like I listen to, the Tennessee Williams John Lahr book. Have you ever read that?
Ooh,
It's
no.
unbelievable. It's so dense. But the audiobook is read by Elizabeth Ashley, and it is the best time you'll ever have in your life.
I think I saw Elizabeth Ashley in August Osage County.
I don't know about that. Did she do it? Look it up. Because I know Estelle Parsons did it. Is that what you're thinking? Or Felicia Rashad did it.
I saw both of them.
I always saw the original lady, Deanna Dunnigan, who was unbelievable. And
Elizabeth Ashley played Maddie Faye, the sister.
that's right. That's
Yes.
right. She replaced brilliant Rondi Reed. Yeah,
Yep.
Rondi Reed.
Yep.
I love that play. I'm very obsessed with that play. I
Yes,
think I talk about it in my book.
It comes
quite a
up
bit.
multiple times in the books.
I'm pretty obsessed. I'm pretty obsessed with that. It's unbelievable. I heard there's a possible Broadway revival of that happening. They've been talking about for years, and I heard the person that was supposed to be doing it, and I really want it, but we'll see if I happen.
Interesting.
I'm not gonna start any gossip.
That's
but
okay. That's okay.
it's
This is
Cathy
not a
Rigby.
gossip.
It's Cathy Rigby.
She could do anything. She could do
I
anything.
want her performing August Osage County next to that LA Fitness in La Mirada, California.
No,
tomorrow.
you know who's starring in it next summer at Ogunquit is Sally Struthers.
Is that true? No, you're making it up. No, because Sally Struthers is always at Ogunquit Playhouse. You're right. You know who's there this summer was Kathleen Turner, and who's in Little Night Music. Ogunquit Playhouse.
Yes. I knew I could
wanted to
make
go.
that joke to you and you would understand why I was saying it because Sally
Yeah,
Struthers
yeah.
does every single show at Ogunquit Playhouse, no matter what.
She does. And is she a friend of yours?
No.
I don't know her either, but I went to a game night at her house once, but I don't know her. I met her. She didn't play the game. She was like in the other room. It was very weird. But she did get a DUI when she was doing 9 to 5 at the Ogunquit Playhouse.
Oh my God, Sally. Listen, you gotta have
Honey, if you're at a Ogunquit for the
cocktail.
summer, why not? Yeah,
Right. When she got pulled over, they were like, "Oh my God, Sally, how you doing? How are the kids?"
It is weird. We haven't had like how we give these people like these Renaissance moments. Like I feel like Sally Struthers is very due that type of. She's not like Betty White old yet, but like she's due something like that.
She just did this TV show with Ted Danson on Netflix.
Oh, she's on that? Oh, I'm
Yes.
happy to hear that. Oh, good.
And she was great. I
she's
was
a
very
star.
happy to see her do that.
She's a star.
I saw her in the national tour of Greece in 1994.
I saw her in Greece as a
I
kid.
saw her play Miss Hannigan in the national tour of Annie.
Never gotten to see that. Have you ever gotten to see her do Dolly Levi? Because she's been doing that for fucking ever.
No, but I'm pretty sure she was doing it in Florida at some point when I was growing up.
Guarantee it.
Yes, she did the circuit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%.
We've brought up your book multiple times. You've never once said the name, which is Self
Oh,
Sabotage.
that's true. So I haven't. Self Sabotage.
This
and
has to have been
by the way,
sitting in your brain for your whole life, the title.
well, yes, I've in the past done. I used to do. I don't want to say stand up because it wasn't really stand up, but like one man shows. So much worse than stand up and much trashier. And I did one directed by Michael Arden, actually.
Oh.
That was called Self Indulgence. And so I was no stranger to using my name for a cheap title. But as I was writing this book and when I sold like the book proposal, it wasn't called this. I didn't really have a title. And then as I was writing it, I was like, wow, every element about this in my life and my choices are usually some form of self-sabotage. So it was a really good fit. So it was like a safe bet of a title, but also it was like, oh no, this is actually what the book is about.
Yeah, that's helpful.
It's good when the title is good about
when it tells you what you're about to read.
Oh,
but you have an endless well. I'm looking forward to over the next 30 years of your career.
I think I would like to do that.
Self-awareness, self-help,
self-destruction,
all by myself, self-destruction. I couldn't help myself.
Self-annihilation. It's all mostly negative, but
no, I'm glass half full, Jeffrey. It has to
maybe one day in my 90s, it'll be like self-realization.
Oh, yes. We're going on a journey here.
We're going on a journey.
One story in your book that I did read from beginning to end. I started the story. I pulled this out of my closet, deep inside my closet that I've never shared with anyone. Then I finished the story and realized, oh, this is going to maybe bring out more emotions than not.
Oh.
But there are so many things about us as I'm learning about you that we are the same. And this is one of the ways.
Okay. Oh my God. An autographed picture of Gary Beach.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's beautiful.
Because I sent him a letter.
Did you? Oh my God. He didn't send me a fucking picture.
Because I sent a self-addressed stamped envelope and requested a signed headshot.
There you go. You knew what you wanted. What was your intro to Gary Beach? Was it Producers? Was it
intro?
Meeting the Bees?
Do
you remember what was
the Producers? I saw him in Lacage.
Lacage, yeah.
And then of course going in the early days of internet doing oh, you know what? No, I saw him in the national tour of Beauty and the Beast. He and a couple other people from the original cast did the tour.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction, and it was among the earlier national tours that I saw, and so I was spoiled that a few people from the original company would do the tour.
And that's so indicative of him as well. In that, and I, from reading the story in the book, he was a very big part of my early 20s. And I wrote him a fan letter. We became really close friends. And he was very much a mentor and godfather-y figure to me. And I talked about it in the book, and it was impossible to talk about him without. But he was so like old showbiz, like old school showbiz, in that Ethel Merman, Mary Martin kind of tradition of he would do a fucking Broadway show and then go out on the road with it. And that was so, I feel like one of the last of that type of era. And he went and did the Producers fucking everywhere. And like, he went out on the national tour of Spamalot after winning a Tony Award for the Producers. Just this type of idea. And I think it was really important to him because I think he grew up outside DC and saw so many of those tours come to the Kennedy Center and that hub of culture these days. Yes. And I think was life-changing for him. And so that was a big thing for him that would, about going out on the road and doing these shows. And that's so cool. He says from reading, he was one of the most important people in my life ever. So I love him a lot and miss him very much.
You are one of the very few people who has ever seen one
I
of
love
these.
That
I may or may not have a folder full of them.
I love that. Oh, that's so lovely. That's
the
lovely.
nerdy theater kid in Florida who was like, "Dear so-and-so, please
where
send
in
me
Florida?
a suburb of Fort Lauderdale."
Okay. Gary did, because they lived in Florida for a while, and he did post like him retiring from Broadway. He did Hello Dolly.
Yeah,
the Jupiter. Yeah, he did it a couple
Jupiter.
times, but I think he did it with Vicky Lewis. There. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think that's
Yes.
right.
My high school chemistry teacher has season tickets.
And that place is still there?
It is.
Great. I'm happy to hear.
So fun. If you were to ever invite me over for a drink, and if the J goes missing on the wall, or if that Rosie O'Donnell Barbie doll goes missing, it was probably me.
She's up there. That's not just you see what this is, right? We have Rosie, obviously.
Uh-huh.
We have Bette, obviously, in her mermaid costume. And most importantly, we have Whoopi. And this is her Star Trek doll.
Yeah.
But I like to keep Whoopi and Rosie next to each other because they don't really like each other in real life. But in my house, they get along, and Bette Midler keeps them in line. And I like to think of that as reality.
That's the beauty of dolls. We could do whatever we want.
Yes, as an aging gay man just dusting his Rosie O'Donnell doll. Yes, it's not a great sign of my mental health, but hey, here we are.
My husband and I were in a thrift store not that long ago, and I saw the Rosie plush like in its original, and I was like, how weird would it be if I bought this?
Oh
would
my God,
you
I would have
still
bought
stay
it
married to me?
On the spot. Every year, my husband has to they let me pick, but we choose one of these three to go on top of the Christmas tree every year. This year,
how do you choose?
I just pick it's my mood. I think, was it Bette this year? No, it was Whoopi this year. But it's the least harder of all these dolls because she's very top heavy. Because this hat is quite heavy.
You need to give her like a big dress or something.
I don't think I'm at the level of unhinged aging gay man that I'm making custom clothes for my dolls, but I'm close.
Yeah,
close. We're getting there.
Self-awareness. Jeffrey, I feel like I could talk to you all day.
Same. This is so lovely.
So lovely.
Lovely to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you. Everyone go buy Self Sabotage.
Okay. Yes, go buy my book. Thank you. And it's
just buy it.
Audio or audiobook. You can buy the audiobook as well. I read it. And buy it. Maybe buy a couple and give them to friends that are their own worst enemies.
It's such a good gift. We love.
Thank you so much for having me, and long live Cathy Rigby.
Thank you, Seán. Thank you, Jeffrey. Everyone, make sure to go check out Open Heaven by Seán Hewitt and Self Sabotage by Jeffery Self. Thank you all so much for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.